Okay, well, welcome to our first edition of Woman2Woman podcast talk, where I am your host, Cherrie Orius, and this is April Johnson. April, welcome to the show. How are we?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let me first explain. Woman2Woman is basically a show for women, about women, and concerning all women issues or talks or ideas. So, that said, we are actually a woman empowerment show based off of the idea that empowered women empower the world. So without further ado, what we're going to talk today is we're going to be talking about expectations. We all have them. We have, around everything that's out here, from jobs to family to relationships, money, just even our life in general. So that said, what we're going to do is get started. So April, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. I'm excited to be here and just talking about expectations. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. How are you today?
I'm here. No, I'm doing well. I'm a little nervous because this is our first trial, so that's okay though.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to actually touch on is that today we're getting into something we all wrestle with, whether we admit it or not, which is expectations. The ones we place on ourselves, the ones placed on us by others, and the ones that we never questioned or but somehow still follow. Expectations can inspire us or imprison us. They can push us to grow or keep us from truth. So in this episode, we're going to explore the layers of expectations across personal growth, relationships, family, ambition, spirituality, and healing. You might hear your story in these words, and I hope by the end of this, you also hear your freedom. All right. So April, just before we even dive in, what are some expectations that you have found that you either put on yourself or you adapted from, family, friends, or just culture?
Honestly, growing up, I don't know if I had the idea of what exact expectations were. I was the oldest, so I know I was expected to do certain things where, like, my siblings were concerned. So I took care of them in a certain manner. I had to make sure they were ready. And also, I had this idea of what I was supposed to do in regards to family in general. I was supposed to protect them. So I did place that expectation on me myself. Like, I was an advocate for my family.
Right.
So, that was always important to me, making sure my family was okay, making sure I was protecting them. And then that was just something that always, as I was growing, like, family, I was, to love them, to make sure they were okay, to make sure I got my younger sister and brother where they needed to be, and fed, taken care of, and, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So more or less like that older sibling traditional role that
Right.
we all play when we have a younger sibling. We are pretty much that second parent over top them, or in some cases that first parent.
Yeah, and then parentizing my parents.
Right.
So that was also a thing. So that too, yeah.
Okay, so the first topic that we would like to touch on is personal growth and mindset. And then I'm going to go with the weight of self-imposed expectations. Sometimes we think the pressure is coming from others, but it's actually coming from ourselves or within. How our own high standards, our need to improve, perform, or please. So where do you see yourself in that spectrum?
Honestly, I never really had this need to please others. I thought right? I thought until I really wrestled with the idea of obligation. You know what I'm saying? In a form of like, I didn't really have a close bond with my mom. So when I formed a closer bond with the people who were good to me in a motherly sense, I felt like obligated to be like even better to them because so that weighed on me growing up or as I was older. I put that expectation or obligation on myself to do things or to stay around longer than expected. And so sometimes we put this alignment to people that we don't need to.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it because growing up, I was the only daughter, second oldest child, and my mother was a single parent. So not only did I have the expectation on me to, like you said, number one, shield my younger brother, even my older brother, be that parent to them. I think the expectation I placed on myself was more or less to always get good grades, be a good student, not to give my mom any problem. Like I was that model child. My mother never had to worry about for as trouble, being defiant or anything. I was always, whatever mom said, that's what it was. I kind of like feared her to an extent. So, but at the same time, the expectation was my expectation was I could not be a child. I was not a child. I was an adult and I had to handle things in an adult manner. And to be honest with you, to have that mindset or think like that, like I knew what being an adult was. Not. So, I mean, that being the case, and then also going to school and, trying to just make my parents proud, not realizing that no matter what I did, whatever I, chose to pursue in life or whatever, they were going to be proud of me anyway, so.
Well, that's awesome. Not me, I bucked. I used to be like, this doesn't make sense. Boom.
Yeah, I think it's more or less because my mother was, and I'm sure a lot of single moms are the same way. But my mother was so, she was such a masculine energy in the home. I mean, even to the point, no one played with her, So she was that one, like you always see those 4-inch moms, and they have those 6-foot tall sons, and that 4-inch mom can cower him down. My mom was like that. So, my brothers tried it, but it was to an extent. They knew when to stop. So another personal growth and mindset, that expectation is maybe letting go of perfectionism, right? We've confused perfection with worth in a lot of ways. So, but success isn't flawless, right? It's honest, it's aligned, and sometimes it's messy. And in thinking about that, in perfectionism, it's like, I can remember when I was in school for hair, when I was in school to be a cosmetologist, learning to cut was my thing. Cutting and color was my thing. And you eventually want to get to be the best or do it perfectly. But I would always either get discouraged or get disappointed. I'm starting out, not looking at the fact, Cherrie, you're starting out, so you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes that cut is not going to be just right. That color might bleed, or it's not going to be, well blended like you might want it. But that was me starting out, But at that time, I'm still, because I wanted it to be perfect. I put too much pressure on myself, and I found sometimes I would just overstress myself. I would get discombobulated. I mean, even there were times I even forgot steps to do that you had to do, like within a color, because I was so anxious to do this and do it right, So what do you find for us and letting go of perfectionism for you? How has that honestly, or do you still struggle with that?
I do, and it always relates to my children,
Okay.
right? Because I didn't find that I was protected, and so I always wanted to make sure they were safe, they were protected, they knew that I loved them. And of course I knew I couldn't be a perfect mom, but I wanted to be really good, you know. So if it meant that I couldn't show up for myself, I did that very often.
Okay.
In order to attempt to be there for them or show up for whatever they needed or give them whatever they needed or whatever I thought I could or should be doing for them at that time. And it cost me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So also though, I know now that wasn't necessarily good. Because there's a lot of things that I needed to give to myself so that I could be better for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would have made some changes to show up a little bit more for myself, then I could have been more available, maybe even now.
Okay.
Or, a little different in my role now for them, in a sense. So not that I would change a lot of things, but some things I would definitely change.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then being that you said that, how do you feel as though that might have, do you think that's had like a negative impact on the on your children or positive?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so because it wasn't always good because I didn't necessarily find the balance. I also was young when I had my oldest son, so I didn't know everything. I didn't know necessarily. We grew up together.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure of how to parent. I didn't have the parental roles to go off of. You know what I'm saying? Right. I was figuring out really on my own.
I get it.
So
I get it.
Yeah.
And then we also have the thing about unmet expectations versus beauty of adaptability. Being that when things don't go as planned, we either resist or we adjust, right? So one leads to frustration, the other leads to peace. So I'm the type that honestly, when things don't go as planned for me, I tend to go to the resist first, and then eventually after I don't know, as some people say, knocked my head against the wall enough times, then I will adjust. Mm-hmm. That's typically what I do, but it does also depend on the situation. And the reason why I say that is because when I had my salon still, I was more of a adjuster there versus, resistance and everything. I was more of an adjuster, I think, because I was so determined to be successful or to, for this business to work. Mm-hmm. So I learned quickly. I can honestly say I learned quickly how I wanted my salon to function. And unfortunately, yes, due to COVID, I had to close down. But in the time that I was open, I learned from that endeavor that I would never do booth rentals again. Mm-hmm. I would never do commission. I realized that for me, I like running the salon, or I like running the business part of it. I can do the hair and I can do the nails, and I don't mind every now and then stepping in and doing it. But I don't want to do that, and then I don't want to have people, I'd rather it be more or less of you have your own business mindset, so you have your own suite. I would do suites. Because I found that when you are solely responsible, people don't care. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and they would jack your stuff up, whatever it is. So I found that in that, the adjustment, right away. I was like, right away, no, this will not be a thing for me. I'd rather have do sweet. So that way you're responsible for your own stuff. You have your own lock and key. I don't have anything to deal with, but I still had the salon, So for you, which one would you say you lean towards more?
I think with growth, now I have learned to adjust peacefully.
Okay.
So that's now.
Right.
Growing up, and even a little bit, maybe like 5 years ago, I would have said resistance. And what I have learned in that is that resistance, it hurts.
It does.
It hurts.
It breaks.
You know what I mean?
It can actually break.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
You're holding on. You're fighting, and you're pulling, and you're trying so hard to either fix something or to hold on to something and maintain this thing, right?
Right.
Whether it's in work, whether it's in love, whether it's in life, whether it's with your children.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you realize that you have to let go, you're freeing them, that thing, and you're also yourself, and you're not burned from it anymore. So I have learned that. And I've also accepted healing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's a great space to be in. So I've learned that with that, I've decided that letting go is like peace, and peacefully saying, I may not agree with what's happening right now, but I am okay with saying, I'm going to let this go and figure something out, and be okay with it. And also actually be okay with it, because sometimes you can let go and still be like, man, I'm going to find another way to get back to this.
Right.
And take it over. No, let it go. And move on
and see what happens.
and see what happens.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I can honestly say, like you said, it does hurt, it does burn. And I think some of the biggest examples is where you have that parent, right, and their child or their children are their world, right, and they don't want to let them grow up. They refuse to let them grow up. So, and like you said, that resistance, that like the child is trying to pull away and you're trying to pull them and tuck them back in. And then a lot of times you've seen where it caused disruptions in, those relationships. And even those, like you said, in love, we get to a point where we confuse, and you hear it all the time, seasonal people with lifetime expectations. And you wind up trying to fight to hold on to a seasonal situation. And number one, you're missing your opportunity of a lifetime.
Right.
And then at the same time, you're creating such a disastrous situation, not only for you, but for the other person as well.
Right.
Exactly. And then you both walk away scarred and sometimes bitter and angry, and then just drained. And then I've seen it deplete people to the point where they don't even want to try again because they don't realize that wasn't lifetime, that was seasonal.
Right.
So I do agree with you there. I mean, I understand fully, but like you said, resistance does hurt. How expectations can shape your self-worth, right? So if your self-worth is tied into outcomes, achievements, or approval, you'll constantly feel like you're failing, which is true. And I can say that when you're trying to always please someone else, have somebody else's approval, just want that you did a good job, you're right. You're going to always feel like you're failing because the minute you don't make the mark,
Right.
But if you are enough, even when you're nothing, it's finished. It's like, okay, you're good. And I agree with that. Once you realize that if I pull this off or not, it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is freeing. it's a lot freeing because, man, you know how many people cannot move forward in life because they're stuck, hung up under what they considered a failure when it wasn't a failure, it was an experience.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, and in that case, like, have you dealt with that? I'm pretty sure you dealt with it, but have you, what did you do to, I guess, gain that understanding or get past it?
You know, honestly, I have to be very transparent with that. That is something that I still struggle with because I have gone back and forth with school, you know, and with my sons are older now, but I still have started, stop with going through life with them, you know.
Right.
And so the other day I was talking to one of the community leaders about change in the way they work one of their programs. And I was saying to her that they needed to at least have some LPCs or QMHPs come into their programs and assess clients before they discharge them from their programs. You know, things like that, because the clients need better care and just to know if they're in like mental health crisis or anything like that, and just advocating for the person. And anyway, we were having to talk about that. I was telling her about my position and why I believe strongly that these patients or clients needs to be assessed. And she just said to me, well, what if you do this? What if you come back and you are our peer-to-peer, you know, specialist? She was like, you're a peer-to-peer specialist. You work with the National Alliance on Mental Health. You do that with them. What if you partner with us and you come back and you join us with this? And she's like, I mean, we can have people on our staff with all the letters behind their name, but you have lived experience. Right. You're the one who came in here and you're advocating for these people.
Right.
And so with that, what I can say is, one, it made me realize that I don't have 1,000 credentials, but I do have a heart. I do care immensely about mental health, domestic violence, things like that. And I'm passionate about those things, truly. You know what I'm saying? But overall, we are our worst critics. We are very hard on ourselves.
Right.
And so I walked out of that meeting knowing that, one, people are still going to give me a chance, right? I mean, I can go back and do the things that I need to do for me. They will be for me. But overall, people are going to still see my heart and my passion and still give me the chance. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Those things are important. And after I walk away from it all, do they matter? And if yes, it matters to me, then go for it.
Right.
But overall, if it doesn't matter, then just still keep doing the work.
Right.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
So, expecting less, right, and appreciating more. What are your thoughts on if we shifted from an entitlement mindset to a gratitude mindset, right? Basically, you know, instead of expecting something to be how we want it or to come in, more or less be appreciative when it does. And even if it doesn't, right? Because in my book, I even tell people there's a lesson there. Even in the bad, there's a lesson, right? So you have to find the silver lining, even in the negative, right? To appreciate it. So that being the case, you know, it's like if we do shift the mindset, you take on a growth mindset versus a stunted, I don't know if you want to say stunted or stagnant, you know what I mean? So in saying that, I guess the growth that you've gotten from your trials, successes, whatever it may be, did you find that you had to shift your mindset perspective to receive that, or was it just okay? Hey, what I want, what I expect should, be what it is.
I definitely had to do a rehaul on my mindset.
Okay.
Overall, absolutely. Right now, I'm in the best space I've ever been mentally. I'm happy. And I can say that's because I've accepted that, one, I'm going to choose to be happy. Also, accountability is huge, right? Taking responsibility on a few aspects of my life. I'm a survivor of many things, but I'm no longer a victim of any.
Okay. Right.
And so
wait, not to cut you off, but to address that right there, right? So because a lot of us do operate from, or a lot of people, I don't want to say it in a generalization, but you do find there are a lot of victim mindsets.
Right.
So in shifting and now saying that I'm a survivor but not a victim, is that because you took you reframed to the appreciative mindset?
Well, I also forgave.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? I also forgave, and not for anyone else but myself.
Okay.
Right. Not for anyone
right
else.
They tell you forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for you.
Yeah, not for anyone else but myself. I'm not angry at anyone. I don't hate anyone. I don't wish any ill will towards anyone. I'm just okay with life, where I'm at right now.
Okay.
And I decided to move forward, and also in being a victim, it doesn't mean you weren't victimized. You have been,
right?
But you have now survived it,
and
you are a survivor, and you are now moving forward with that. And that does not mean I don't still have panic attacks.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't still deal with anxiety and even depression. These are still everyday things for me, but I don't lay in it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That has changed.
Right.
That has changed for me. So now when I feel the panic setting in, I do my breath work. I do my breathing exercises. I count the 5 things I can see or the 4 things I can smell. Those kind of things. I do my EMDR exercises. And I really am intentional about if I'm feeling like the depression set in, not lying in bed.
Okay.
I give myself the day.
Right.
I'll give myself the day. But that next day, I'm getting up.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that that's easy for everyone to do.
Right.
But I am very intentional about making sure that I don't get to the 2 days or the 3 days, that 3rd day I'm in bed and I'm like, I can't get up and I'm going to stay here another day.
Right.
I'm making sure that I'm getting up. And I'm just trying to continue to do that for as long as I can.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So shifting gears now, because we talked about growth and mindset, right? And growth and mindset impacts everything, I feel, from financial, emotional, relational, spiritual. Because how you perceive a thing or accept a thing or view a thing is how you're going to value a thing, right? So shifting gears now, moving into the relationship aspect of it. When you come into, I guess, let's touch on unspoken agreements, right? So have you ever feel let down by someone, but you realize you never clearly said what you needed? And I think this is a common thing for us really as women, because we enter into relationships, whether it be platonic or, romantic, and then it's like an implied understanding that you expect dot, right? And then when it goes awry or it doesn't happen, we're hurt, we're disappointed, and then, we're upset about it. But I mean, honestly, as my brothers always said, we're not mind readers, right? We know we're not. And so it's like us as women, we do expect men to read our mind.
Right.
So, and like I said, this is a silent contract, right? And it is like, it is a setup for disappointment. So I can speak for myself. Like I said, I've always, I guess the implied expectation, let's say on a romantic level, if I got involved with a man, was you were going to be kind to me. You were going to be all those things that your grandparents, displayed, right? If we, depending on how serious we are, and if we're on that level where we're husband and wife, or we're acting as husband and wife, then I'm expecting you to do those things that a husband would do for a wife, right? And men don't think like that. We do. I mean, how many times have we gotten into a relationship and we're not married, but we're being a wife versus a girlfriend. And then when it doesn't work out, we're disappointed, we're hurt, because now we've given all these wifely attributes to you or benefits to you, and you only giving us boyfriend.
Right. Right.
So what about for you?
So I think there's like so many answers to that, right? So the compartments to that. One, I was about to laugh when you were speaking on that, because one, you know me very well. I'm gonna express how I feel about things. I'm gonna say if I like something or if I don't. And whether it's from I don't want that seat, I want to sit in that chair, to I didn't like how you made me feel about this or that, so.
But were you always that way, especially, not about the I don't want that seat, but for as I don't, expressing your feelings on how they made you feel?
I think I was always that way. I don't think it was always accepted, and then like we were able to have a conversation about it. I think people ran from it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think I always expressed it. Because Lord knows, even as a child, I got in trouble for expression.
Right.
So,
okay.
I think I always expressed those things. But I don't think... So, I think part two to that is I don't think I would keep company with someone who is not able to rationalize that this is a conversation, it's not an attack.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? This is what I need from you. This is my attachment style. And then I understand somebody else's attachment style.
So now I'm questioning that, because hindsight is 20/20, right? So the thing I think a big part of what we do is we don't have that discussion up front.
Right.
We get into the relationship. Go for it.
That's what I was going to get into. So now I can't even like really entertain up front if you're not able to just even have an upfront conversation about like, what do you like? What are you able to accept from me? Now, like just as us getting to meet each other, those kinds of things. And, even the interaction with the text, if we can't even communicate in that manner,
right?
Those small things matter.
They do.
So I don't. I'm not able to really hold on to people that long, because I'm very clear on my expectations. But I'm also expecting people to be very clear with me. And one thing I've also come to learn in this season is when people are clear with their boundaries and their expectations, to accept it. Because I now have a choice. Am I okay with this? And if I'm not, then I gotta just walk away from it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's my right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have to acknowledge that this person and me aren't on the same page, and now I have a choice. Before, it's like, oh, maybe I can get this person to see this kind of thing and all this. No, he just clearly said this, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
So let's not try to,
Right, I get it. Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
So and I guess that's what they call in the expectation gap, right? So it says people don't disappoint us because they're bad. They disappoint us because we're expecting something that they never agreed to give us.
Right.
And that's where, like you said, okay, well, he's saying that I'm only capable of this.
Right.
But your expectation is this. And like you said, I'm going to see if I can win this over.
Right.
I'm going to get this from this person. Whether it even be just a friend. You know, you have those friends that, like you said, when you compartmentalize them, and I'm going to use a Tyler Perry quote here. You have the roots, the leaves, and the tree.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I'm sorry, the branch. So you have, and those leaves, you want so much for them to turn into something more than that. But that's all they can do. They can give you is, shade in the summertime when everything is good. But when you're going through that bad stuff and you really need them to be around, they're blown away. They're like, sorry.
Accept that.
Yeah. And it does hurt you. It does hurt us because you.
But it doesn't have to.
Well, it doesn't have to. But like you said, that's because we're in that expectation gap, right? We're expecting them to be this because, number one, a lot of times, as they say, stop looking for me or you and that person.
Right.
And that's the biggest, I think, disappointment that we do because we expect people to be to us what we are to them or would be to them.
But we have to stop doing that.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
We have to stop doing that.
We do,
Yeah.
And then it's and know that it's okay because a lot of times when we get to that point, that's how we lose friends, family, loved ones. That's how we lose relationship or connection with them because now you've disappointed me. And now because I feel this way, I don't want to be bothered with you. And we have to just, like they say, accept them for who, where, and what they are and what they can do and not penalize them for what you want from them and be like, you know what? It's okay that you can only be a leaf.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I know that I can only be or jig with you when everything is going good. I know that you'll be around always when the sun is out.
Yeah. But
when the rain falls and the snow falls and that heavy stuff come down, I know you're going to go away, right? So that's when I start looking more towards, you want to look more towards, as they say, your branches and your roots, right? Because your branches, some of them are going to break depending on how strong or how thick they are, but a lot of them are going to stay there with you, right? And they're going to be there. They're going to rock with you. And they'll be that person that maybe, you can call on, every now and then. And where the root is going to be right there, like, you know what, I got your back. You can stand on me.
Right.
When you can't stand for yourself, you can stand on me. Or, I got you. I'm going to carry you in this moment because I know you can't walk. Right. And, I mean, those are hard to find.
Those are hard to find.
Those are very hard. They are few and far between. And you're lucky, I always say, and I found in my life, you're lucky if you get one or two. Really one. Two is like a blessing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But we have to be honest with the fact that most of those people identify themselves up front.
Right.
We just don't accept it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, because we want more.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we're not getting anymore. We're not getting anymore.
Right, you're not.
That's it.
And
that's
you're
all they got.
that I can change you.
Yeah.
I can do this.
And I'm gonna be very honest. I was yearning for this connection and this whatever, especially in relationships, because with friends, I've always kind of been like, I accept them for who they are. You know what I mean?
I think we all take a harder role in relationship because there is a higher level of expectation when you're in a romantic situation versus a platonic. Exactly. There is, because that's unfortunately, and I have to say it because I know relationships are pretty much teaching guides to marriage life for you, right? But we go into it already for some reason, almost most of us in a marriage mindset, you know.
And especially if you're coming from a place where you are, well, you know, insecure or broken, or want to prove that you're worthy of some form of love,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, you're definitely looking at this like, love me, you know, and I'm definitely gonna love you. Let me show you how much I can love you, so you can love me back in this way. So I'm not there anymore. I'm like, listen, this is what I got. This is what I'm gonna give you, you know. And also, I absolutely believe in love. So after all the things that I have gone through, that doesn't mean that I don't believe in love, because I do. I'm not bitter or anything like that. I have so much love to give. Right. I do believe in love, but I'm just not like yearning to give it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You know what? And once you've gone through enough heartbreak or enough, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you went through a lot. It can be just one real situation that rocked you so much to your core that you get to that point, because no one, of course, wants to be hurt. And that's funny, because that segues into our next question is, are expectations fair in love and friendship? Right? Love thrives on communication, not assumption. Are we expecting people to be who we imagine, or who they really are? And I lean towards more of the imagine, because one thing with women, and even if you come from a home where it was a single mother and you've seen all that or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? It's like, it's something societal, innately, whatever you want to call it, within us. We have that imagination of Snow White, Cinderella, you know, happy endings and Prince Charming, and you know, he's gonna be my hero, my everything, you know, and I'm just gonna, you know, it's that damsel distress, right? That damsel in distress mindset to an extent. And it doesn't mean that you're a damsel, that you need them or you're a needy person, but you expect a certain level of care. And then when you don't get it, it's like you're not accepting them for who they are. Not every man can love.
Right.
You know, a lot of them, because they're coming from their own situation, don't know themselves. You know, I had a conversation the other day with a girlfriend. Like I said, you have a lot of men out here, and even Derek Jackson said, he was like, you have a lot of men out here who want wives, but they don't want to be a husband. They don't know how to be a husband.
Yeah, including him.
But we not going to. But anyway, but my point in saying that is, you know, it's so much brokenness that, number one, we're not, the younger generation are not being poured into like they were before, to be taught these characteristics, because that's what it is. It's developed characteristics and it's learned. So, and that being the case, it's like when you get in these relationships, we're expecting something from the other partner that they might have it in them, but never tapped into it, so they don't know. And they might have it in them and know it, and they just don't want to give it to you. You know, or they just don't have it.
Right.
You know, it's one of the three, but we're still looking at them to give me that. You know, like, I need 50 cents. You can't get blood from a turtle.
Right.
So if I ain't got 50 cents to give you, I don't care how much you expect it.
Exactly.
You ain't gonna get it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. Another thing, we have to start, and I think that's because, like they say, in the beginning, you're in that. I know we use the word love bomb a lot, but love bombing is when someone is intentionally trying to do something to you, like, you know, throw you off. But I mean, when you authentically are in the newness of a relationship, it's almost like they call it the honeymoon phase, but you're in this love smoke. You're infatuated. Everything about them is, oh my God. You can't, like, sometimes you can't even, well, you ignore. I'm not going to say you can't see the red flags. you minimize the red flags or can't see or ignore the red flags because you're so infatuated about all the shiny stuff.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And that's what I want people to get to now, or even our younger people, to get to a place where they don't have to go through the trauma to be able to be like, well, I've worked through this and I'm healed and I'm at a place where now I'm here. Or I worked through this and I'm so damaged that I don't even want love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I think for me, before, of course I imagined this way of love or the idea I had of this person, right? Or the way I wanted my life to be. And it was more honestly geared to family because my family was just so dysfunctional. It wasn't necessarily about the person that I was with. It was more about the idea of family structure.
Right. So you were expecting to fill a void that you did not have at home.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, worst decision ever, because that turned into an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But what I did learn from that was, one, to never do that again. And then also to be very clear and mindful about how people show up.
Right.
They are who they say they are. They are who they appear to be, and then believe them.
Andrew, my Angelo said it best.
Yes.
People show you that believe them.
Believe them.
And it is so true.
And then also that's why I'm very mindful of that, because if this person says they don't have it to give, they don't have it to give. Do not push it. Do not try to change that. Do not expect anything different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's okay. It's also okay that they don't have it to give to you, because then that's just not your person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
But the thing about it is, and one thing I do want to say, and I know what you're talking about, as far as wanting to prevent people from going through the trauma. I agree with you about the trauma, but at the end of the day, one thing I want to do, because, like I said, trauma has such a negative connotation, but trauma is honestly transformation and its growth, right?
It is.
Now, the thing about it is,
it can be.
It can be, right? Mm-hmm. It's again, that's the mindset.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but if you never go, it's like in the book of Job, right? I think in another talk we talked about this in the book of Job. Job never experienced anything. He never had any loss, trauma, or setbacks, right? Mm-hmm. Everything was given to him. He was blessed beyond blessed. And, and it's just like when Satan said, hey, the only reason why Job loves you the way he do, talking to God, is because you've never let him experience any bad. Mm-hmm. He's like, I guarantee you, if you let him remove your protection, let him go through it, he will turn on you. And this is why I say God and him had played with us. God said, go for it. Don't touch his soul. You can't touch his soul, but you can do whatever else. Mm-hmm. And Job lost everything. He experienced the worst trauma that anybody. He lost his children. He lost everything. This man was very wealthy. He lost everything, and even his health had declined. Mm-hmm. To the point that he was on deathbed, and his wife was the one who actually told him, curse your God and die. Mm-hmm. But his faith and his love for God would not allow him to do that. But it's the same thing that you have to go through something to appreciate. You have to go through the bad to appreciate the good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like they say, if you've never had sun, if you've never had rain, you'll never appreciate the sun. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So, me, myself, I don't like rain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I say that everything that yields harvest has to die first. Mm-hmm. So
it is a metamorphosis.
Yeah,
it is.
Absolutely. So I do believe that yes, there are things that you have to go through. I don't think they have to be traumatic. You know what I'm saying? To an extent.
Right.
But yes, everything that yields harvest has to die. You do have to go through a thing.
You do. You do.
You know what I mean?
You do.
So, yeah.
And I agree with you. And again, going through trauma and now on the other side of trauma and learning that the weight of trauma is based off of the way you receive it, you know. So, but that's a whole nother story. Unmet expectations equals conflict. So it says conflict does not come from differences, it comes from expectations that weren't clarified. I agree. Some of your biggest arguments are because,
there was no clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm a big proponent of, like, if I am emailing at work or texting personally on the phone, if I don't understand something, picking up the phone. You know what I'm saying? Can I get some clarification on this, because I don't really understand what you mean and what you're saying.
That's true.
You know,
that's true.
I don't understand what you're saying.
You know, and even in the homestead between parent and child, you know, there is a sort of implied expectation from the parent to the child, certain behaviors and everything, and you know, that child just might not be that child. That might be your hellion, you know.
Listen.
And they can't communicate but so much. So a lot of their communication is in action versus verbally. But us as in that scenario, us as the parent, we have to learn to pick up on that, especially when we're dealing with our children. Because like I have to say, my baby girl, her name is Diamond, and I always tell people, Diamond comes with a disclaimer. Okay, she's come with a disclaimer since birth. Because from birth, she was just that child that she wasn't necessarily disrespectful, but she was that child that she had no filter. She said what she thought. She did, you know, and the consequence had no bearings on her. I'm going to get penalized for it anyway, but so I'm going to do it. Whatever. So, and I can remember, that child has brought adults to reduce them to this. Because as an adult, when you're speaking to a child, number one, you're not speaking to a child, you're speaking to a child not thinking that they have a certain level of comprehension. And my daughter, honestly, I have to say, she was born with wisdom. She was born with so much wisdom. But she had no tact, you know.
Right.
I mean, you have one yourself. We both have one in that regard. But I can remember one time when it was the summertime, you know, well, not summertime, but I think it was spring break or whatever. Anyway, Diamond did not like school. And so her first couple of years, you know, she struggled a little bit. She had bad grades, but it wasn't because she couldn't do the work. She didn't want to do the work. So she wouldn't do the work. And I remember my oldest brother saw her report card. And, you know, being the uncle, I'm the eldest uncle. I'm going to discipline. I'm going to chastise my niece, and I'm going to get her on point. And at this time, I was now a single mom. So, of course, the guidance of my brothers automatically came in for my children. And he looked at her and he was like, Diamond, why are these grades like this? We don't get grades like this. You come from a family of thinkers and this and this and that. You're not stupid. You know this stuff. And if you don't know it, you need to be asking for help. He was like, what is it? When you grow up, you don't want to be able to get a good job. I mean, you know. And she looked at him. And the thing about it was my brother had just moved here from Atlanta, Georgia. He was having a hard time finding a job. So he was unemployed. And as soon as he said that, my daughter looked at him. And I think she was about 5 or 6 at the time. And she goes, you mean like you, Uncle? My brother was so shocked, hurt, surprised. He was like, all I could do, Cherrie, was suck my bottom lip. He was like, I wanted to chop her in her throat. But it was number one, it was the shock of this child has this wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has the audacity.
Number two.
Say it. But again, she was that child. You couldn't tell her a child is to be seen and not heard. Mm-hmm. Not her book. Mm-hmm. I am to be heard. I have a voice. So, and she was always the child that I bucked with, right? Mm-hmm. We always bumped heads because of that. So that being the case, it's like, we have to be mindful of the expectations that we, put on people, like you said, mm-hmm. Especially if it's not something that they don't have.
Yeah, I have two, and they're totally opposite. Totally opposite. Every morning when I was getting those two ready, I used to be like, well, come on, dude, sit down, and it was just like, geez, but that younger one, he was the same way. Yeah. He was the same way. And I literally used to Google, how do I respond to this?
Yeah, because some people see it as defiance.
Yeah.
And it's not really defiance.
Yeah, because with him, I had to break down because he would ask questions from one.
Right. Questions you like, what made you think that?
He would say, why are you using a loud voice to me?
So he had enough wisdom at that age to know
he was
and verbalize.
Yeah, he at the time maybe he didn't know screaming, but he knew you were talking loud.
And he didn't like it.
He did not like it. So he's like, "Why are you using the loud voice to me?" And he's like, "Well, you sound angry, and stop it." Kind of thing. So I don't know what you're angry about, but stop it. I don't like it. So with that one, I used to have to Google, how do I respond, or what does it mean when this kid is saying, this, and how do I respond to it? Because I would have to talk through things with him. And also by that time, I was parenting different. With Will was kind of like, because I said so. And he, of course, didn't like it as a child, but he was more like, all right, whatever.
Right, he was one of those. Yeah. That's why I say he was that child and that's why I said that defiant child. We see it as defiance, but it's not necessarily defiance. It's just that there's a level of wisdom there and a level of self-awareness there that the average child doesn't have at that age. Mm-hmm. And
or more compliant at the very least. Because Will, if I'd be like, because I said so, he was more like, all right.
Okay, you said so. This is mom.
Well, even if he didn't agree, he wasn't going to sit there and argue with me about it for 5 minutes. Dude is like, well, what does that mean?
Make it make sense.
Yeah. What do you mean you said so? Yeah. That's but that is not even a reason. It's not because you said so. That's not a good reason.
Right.
Well, I said I don't want to do it,
So tell me why I have to do it.
Because you said so is more valid than me saying so. I'm a person too, Like, I used to be like, somebody help me.
Oh, girl, I know.
This kid, So yeah.
I know, and it's so funny because I was blessed because my mother apparently was that way as a child, and she recognized it in my daughter that she guided me a lot, because when my mother was coming up and being that way, of course, like I said, back in the days, it was considered you being fresh, grown, defiant, whatever. Mm-hmm. So my grandmother didn't take well to my mother being that way. And so my mother went under a lot of disciplinary actions, things because of it. But she was able to recognize herself in my daughter. Mm-hmm. And the first thing she said to me, she was like, Cherrie, don't stop her spirit. Mm-hmm. That's her spirit. That's her light. That's who she is. And then she was like, my mother took her under her wing a lot. Like my mother literally kept that child guarded up under her. Because she would try to talk to her like, no, darling, don't, Mm-hmm. Or she would say certain things or do certain things or whatever you want to call it, she would just, make sure that she was not disciplined for being herself. And that's what I was like, I understood that was her spirit. I understood that's who she was. Like you said, sometimes you just want to say,
yeah. Well, also by then I got better informed. I learned about ADHD, what that does to your frontal lobe, and how you think about things, and So at that time, I began to do a lot more research and learn a lot more, and just become informed. Because listen, that kid used to be like, no,
yes,
that doesn't make sense.
I know, girl. I tell you, yes.
Oh yeah,
that was my. I know. So, my reading versus communication needs, and we did touch on this, where like we said, we have that expectation as women a lot of times for a man to read our mind versus us communicating what's on our mind. You're not difficult for needing something, but no one can meet your needs if they don't exist, and that's true. If you need water and you don't tell me, how do I know to give you water? Right? So I do agree. There is that we think that men are all telepathic. And then, but at the same time, I honestly think too, yes, we need to be better communicators verbally, but then we also need to be more mindful and more observant behavior-wise. Because even though as women, we don't always say what we're feeling, our actions do. You might not know the specific reason why I'm upset, but my action, I'm upset.
I think so. Yeah, I know I'm definitely grumbling around when I'm aggravated. For sure.
I don't know. I got to a place, honestly, where I used to be that way, and now it depends. If I'm trying to process it for myself, I'm going to internalize. I'm not going to say anything. Because the one thing that I want to do first is I want to check me. I want to make sure, am I just in a zone and responding incorrectly because I'm in a zone? Or is this really what it is, right? And then once I come out of that, then, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say something, right? But I think because men are natural responders and they want, and as they call problem solvers, the minute that they see you're upset, the minute that whatever it is, they want that information. I ain't got to get to you right now.
I get very...
Because sometimes I might not know what I'm mad about.
I get very even when I'm trying to process. Because even at work, when things are scattered and I'm trying to figure things out, I'm like, grumble, But I'm still trying to process even what the day is looking like, how things are going. That's just my way I process things. I do try to work through whatever is aggravating me, though.
Okay.
Whether it's work, whether it's home, whether it's the kids.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm definitely gonna say something. If it's work, 9 times out of 10, it's just work stuff. So that is nothing really to talk about. Work is gonna be work. Work is gonna aggravate you, stress you out, stuff like that. Because especially with the work I do, it's dealing with numbers and processing.
Oh, girl, tell me about it.
So yeah, there's nothing to talk about. You gotta get it done.
Whole thing.
Yeah, and that's just what it is. But home stuff, I'm gonna process and then I'm gonna say what I need to say. Most of the time, it's to my children, and they be like, "Oh, here she come again."
Right.
But
you're telling me about it.
But that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But
I agree.